Rush here for L.A. Leonard, 7 to shoot. Kawhi makes his move. Oh, wow. A major Kawhi light.
Hello, YouTube world. Thanks for checking in the Khaliis Take. If it's your first time to the channel, please like, subscribe. Also hit the notification bell so you get the newest and the bonus content first, where you get it here. And, you know, my man Kawhi Leonard here has just been a great elite piece for this Clippers organization, you know, so far. You know, last year, a lot of people criticized them. Last year, a lot of people, you know, criticized the Clippers team as organization, you know, but what they're doing this year, I think it's surprising a lot of people. And, you know, I'm looking at this game last night. That was a hell of a dunk by Kawhi, by the way. But at the same time, you know, being down 0-2 in the first two rounds of the NBA playoffs and coming back to help yourself at least have a chance to win these series has been amazing. Now, hopefully, you know, my man Kawhi Leonard stays healthy. Hopefully, you know, his knee isn't bothering him too bad, you know, because he wants to win. And like I say, if you look at Kawhi Leonard, there's no way you could tell me that you look at him and say that guy doesn't want to win, because he does. And every time you look at him play, you understand why he's a great player. You know, there's times where you could look at him and be like, man, you know what I'm saying? Is he as good as advertised, or is he a player that, you know, gets glorified and don't show up as much and don't bring it? And that's the crazy thing I look into, or I listen to the other, you know, analysts say, and it's like every time I see this guy brings it every night, every time. I mean, he's got the most 30-point games, I believe, amongst like all players actively playing, you know what I'm saying? So in the playoffs. So it's like, if you score 30 plus points in the playoffs on average, just about, I mean, it seems like that's what he gets like all the time. So you got to give him a lot of credit. You know what I'm saying? He is a top 2 player in the league when he is healthy. He is big time. Now, let's just go ahead and talk about the game at hand that happened last night. You know, I gave my reaction to it. It was a great game, nonetheless. Even greater for the Clippers, I would say, than the Utah Jazz. I mean, the Jazz, they played really lackadaisical efforts in the first quarter, but I think it was more so due to the fact that the Clippers actually gave them all they can handle, you know, because the first 2 games, it's funny how you hear some analysts say, oh, now all of a sudden that is tied 2-2. Now you hear analysts say, oh, yeah, they need Mike Conley. They need this. They need Mike Conley to run the offense. They'd be so much better, you know, or, you know, now they need Mike Conley to be the guy for the team. First of all, let's just get something clear. Mike Conley is a really good player. He is. Nobody's denying that he isn't a good player, but he's not the best player on the team. It's Donovan Mitchell. And if you look at what the Clippers are doing, Mike Conley is their point guard for the Utah Jazz. Okay, the best point guard for the Clippers is Rondo. Rondo's not even playing. But the 2 superstar players are averaging 5 assists a game, basically, between, you know, a piece. Kawhi is averaging like 5 assists a game. PG's averaging like 5 assists a game. So it's like, I don't want to hear about Mike Conley because now they lost 2 in a row. And it might possibly be they lose 3 in a row. I don't want to hear about Mike Conley as in like he's the savior of the team. Of course, he's a big part of what they do. He gets them in a lot of sets. He gets them in a lot of, you know, situations where they're a dominant team, but he's not the end all be all. It's Donovan Mitchell. It starts and ends with him. And if Donovan Mitchell is playing at his best, then that's when Utah's at their best. So, you know, now it's just like the media is just making excuses because the Clippers tied it up and nobody thought they would against this team. And I'm not even gonna lie, I had doubts myself, you know, against a team like Utah, because looking at Utah at home, they just look like a very, very dominant team. But I mean, there again, that's how it goes a lot of times. You look that dominant when you're at home because you got sellout home crowd. You got, all your fans there. It's no cardboard cutouts. It's all 19,000 people there. And, that boded well for the Utah Jazz. But when you put Utah in a situation where they're on the road and their backs are against the wall and they have to go against a mini crowd, I should say, in LA, along with the Clippers, who are energized and ready to go and defensive minded, that's when Utah's going to look a little bit more human, I should say, because at home they look like all supermen. They look like they couldn't be stopped. They were playing defense, they were playing hard, and I'll give it to them. They won the first 2 games, but at the same time, I always say when you have a heart of a champion, it takes a lot to kill a champion. It takes a lot. And the fact that Utah was up 2-0 in this series, now we really have a series. And, a lot of people are speaking on the Mike Conley thing. I'm not sure exactly how good Mike Conley's going to be when he come back. I mean, he's not played in a while. His rhythm is not there, and he might be on a minutes restriction. So who knows when you look at it from that perspective. So, but like I said, we'll see how Game 5 goes. Game 4 was really all about the Clippers. The Clippers really took care of business. And Paul George, shout out to him, back-to-back 30-point games. That's the Paul George we need to see. That's the Paul George we need to always, we need to see more often than not. Because this team, with him playing like that, and if Kawhi is healthy, I mean, this team is the best team in the West. I don't care what Chris Paul does, his little, State Farm commercials, all that crap. Who cares? Like I said, he's always been a good player to me, really great player, I should say. But he's always been overrated to me personally because they give him all this credit and the guy never even been to an NBA Finals. He always seems to get hurt where he can't help his team propel to the next round. I mean, they almost didn't beat the Lakers. You know what I'm saying? If it wasn't for Devin Booker, they wouldn't have beat the Lakers probably, but, and like I said, the other guys chipped in too, but it just seems like he always gets hurt at the wrong time. And even when he had other teams, he was a great player, but I mean, for him not to ever accomplish nothing in that length of time he's been playing. I mean, he hasn't won an MVP. He hasn't won a finals MVP. He hasn't, it's like he's always been a great all-star, superstar point guard, but that's about it. So my thing is, the Clippers are definitely the best team in the West if Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are playing at the top of their game. And what I mean by that is, I mean both sides of the floor. Because what I saw last night, minus the greatness of that dunk that Kawhi Leonard had that really blew up the world last night, I saw their defense attack Utah. And I know Utah is a good team. I understand that. But I don't give a damn if Mike Conley's there or not. If the Clippers are going to play defense like that, the way they played the last 2 games, Games 3 and Game 4, they're going to play defense like that. I don't give a damn if Mike Conley is there, if he's 100% healthy. That team is going to win that series. Because if they're playing defense to that level, I don't know if Mike Conley is really going to be the savior for the team. I don't know if Mike Conley is really going to be the guy that's going to help the Utah Jazz get over the hump. Because if Mike Conley, as I said a few minutes ago, if he's not 100% and if he doesn't have his rhythm, I mean, Utah can lose this series even if he does come back for Game 5. Now, I will say this, Game 5 is a pivotal game. I always said, whoever wins either Game 3 or Game 5 in a 7-game series usually always wins the series. Well, Game 5 is more magnified than a Game 3. But the Clippers did win Game 3, so that does give them a psychological edge in the series because Game 3 is always usually the turning point of a series. And Game 5 to me is always the series decider. You see what I'm saying? So, and it's not 100% accurate, but I mean, the percentages and the numbers are pretty high with those attributes and, just with those statistics, I should say, so it's very imperative that the Clippers come out and play the way they played this last game last night with the same energy in Utah. And it's going to be even harder because Utah is going to be at home. They're going to be mentally rested. They're going to be mentally comfortable. They're going to be mentally engaged, and they're going to be mentally locked in. And that's just the way the Clippers are going to have to be. I don't need Wednesday's game. I don't need Marcus Morris going 1 for 8 from threes. I need him to at least go 3 for 6, from 3-point range. I need him to at least make the defense respect his jump shot, because he's going to be a vital piece. Now, my man Reggie Jackson didn't play that great last night, but Reggie Jackson, the whole playoffs has been amazing just about. I mean, he gets a pass. As long as if Reggie Jackson doesn't show up and Marcus Morris shows up, that's good. That's okay. It's okay. It's not a big deal. We can live with that. Long as one of them show up for, if the other one doesn't show up, that's the best thing that could happen. And that's a good thing for the Clippers. So we definitely will be okay with that. But we do need Kawhi Leonard there. We do need Kawhi Leonard to be healthy as much as possible. And that's definitely the worrisome issue that a lot of people are having right now, even though Kawhi and Ty Lue said, Kawhi is fine. But, Kawhi waking up this morning, could feel a whole lot different than what he felt last night. Because, when your adrenaline is going and everything is, moving so fast, you can't feel the pain as much when your adrenaline is high and you're moving and, you're all over the place. You can't you can't feel the pain as much sometimes. But when you lay down at night and wake up that next day, that's when the pain comes. So we'll see if any reports come out today, late today, going into tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. But I do think Kawhi Leonard will play because, Kawhi Leonard's, he's a winner, man. He wants to win, and he's a dog out there on defense. And I think his mentality and his whole demeanor is really, it's really getting through to the team. I feel like everybody else is putting that in their demeanor. Everybody else is playing with the same edge because they see him do it. And I feel like that's what a leader should do. That's who a leader should be. And that's how a leader should lead by example. Exactly what Kawhi Leonard's doing. And, to me, when you look at this team, if they're going to play complete and whole the way they did the last couple games, they're going to be really tough. And I like the fact that Ty Lue actually put Nicholas Batum in the starting lineup, because Batum is really long and he is really, really good defensively. He's underrated defensively, though. Because like I said, the plays that he can make defensively with his long arms bothers a lot of people. It even bothers Gobert. And then if you're trying to throw across the court pass, his arms are long enough to actually, reach out and make the steal, as they did last night. And then you got Kawhi Leonard's long arms out there too, along with Paul George. So a lot can go wrong when you play the Clippers if they're on their game mentally, defensively. And that's what they need to be. They need to go into tomorrow's game all defense. Don't worry about the offense. The offense is going to come. But if you're getting stops on the defensive end, it'll drive your offense to where it needs to be, so you can win tomorrow's game and take control of the series and go close it out in LA, which should be on Friday. But it's a long shot. The Clippers, it's hard to figure them out sometimes. Sometimes they're really, really the team. They really look like the team that you want to vote for and say, yeah, that team's going to win the championship. And then sometimes they look like the team is like, I don't know why I ever picked them to win a championship. They don't look championship ready. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Clippers always give you that thought process when you watch them. They're like a Jekyll and Hyde team at sometimes. Sometimes they look like they're just unbeatable, and then other times they look just lackadaisical, like they're uninterested. You know what I'm saying? So my thing with the Clippers is they need to be 100% engaged, because if they're 100% engaged and locked in on the defensive end with all the good defenders that they have, I'm telling you, there isn't any team that can really beat this team, unless it's a team like Brooklyn, if they got all three of their superstars. That's probably about the only team that can really beat the Clippers if the Clippers play engaged and locked in. And what I saw last night was a team who played engaged and locked in. They played desperate, they played hungry, and they played with a sense of urgency. And when you play with when you bottle all that up in your mentality and you go out there and you have the adrenaline and the feel and the momentum of the crowd, you can beat any team. But the great teams can have that same momentum, same drive, same intensity, same thought process, same defensive mind, same locked in on same locked in mentality on the road as well. And this is what we're going to see about the Clippers tomorrow in tomorrow's game versus the Jazz. Do you still have that same mentality if we go on the road in a hostile environment where you know our backs are against the wall? Can we push back, fight back, and put ourselves in position to take control of this series? And that's what Ty Lue's going to have to implement to these guys. But also that these guys are going to have to implement to themselves when they're out there on the court, on the floor, because you're going to have to prove it to yourself more than Ty Lue just saying it to you. And that's just the way it's going to have to be. And, you know, I know the Clippers understand this. They know this, but you got to go through the process. You got to make this work. A lot of people are hating you. A lot of people are rooting for you. And all the Clippers fans are rooting for you. And you got to go out there and make it happen. Because honestly, it is what it is. You're the only team left in LA. You're the only team left in California, the state that we're in, that represents this state. And Lakers fans don't want to hear that. Golden State Warriors fans, maybe even, I don't know, some Sacramento fans, if there's any out there, maybe they don't want to hear that. But regardless of what they want to hear, the facts is the Clippers are the only team in the playoffs representing California in LA. And if that's the case, then the Clippers got a shoulder load to carry. But if they do it, if they find a way to win it, I'm telling you, they'll be more than rock stars if they do. Because you're down 0-2 in the first two rounds. If you happen to get out of this round with Utah, which is going to be tough, you still got the Suns. They're pretty tough. That probably goes 6-7 games also. And then you have to play the Nets in the finals. So, if the Clippers find a way to somehow win this series with Utah and find a way to make it all the way to the championship, which I don't want to talk too far because that's really too far ahead for me to even think. But if they do, what a great story. It would be a great, just a great Cinderella type story with a team that a lot of people never even looked at as, this type of caliber team. And even especially after what happened last year in the bubble, people really doubted this team, and people are still doubting them now. But I hope the Clippers just keep proving everybody wrong and, doing what they need to do, getting to their spots on the floor, executing plays. And, the one thing I want to see with the Clippers, I agree with Chris Broussard. I want to see the Clippers kind of like, I love the Clippers. I would love to see the Clippers blow out every team they play. Blow Utah out the next two games, blow out everybody by 20, 30 points. But I would also love to see the Clippers be in a 5 to 7 point game and execute plays down the stretch with their two players, with the game in the balance. I really want to see the Clippers do that because I think that's going to separate the Clippers from a lot of other teams in the playoffs, because I think that's the only thing the Clippers haven't done yet. They've beaten teams by 10, 20 plus, but consistently, or whatever you want to say, if it's 5 to 7 points and they're up by 5 or 7 points with 4 or 5 minutes, with 3 minutes to go in the game, it hasn't been many times we've seen them close out a game the way they're supposed to. And this is exactly what's going to happen in the playoffs. If the Clippers stay in long enough, they're going to be in a series where they have to do that. And it might be this one against Utah. It might even be tomorrow night. So if it is, I want to see the Clippers execute plays the way they can under pressure, because not every game you're going to win by 20, 30 points. And that's just fact. That's just fact. Every game you're not going to win by 20, 30 points. So if you can execute down the stretch with the waning minutes of the game going by, 3, 4 minutes, 2 minutes left in the game, you're up by 5. The other team just hits a 2-pointer. Now you're only up by 3. How are you mentally going to execute that? The Clippers have always had problems with that these last couple seasons, and I want to see them exercise and succeed and get past those demons of not being able to do that, because I believe they can. They just have to prove themselves they can do it. And once they do that, then I think they'll be on their way to something really, really special. But hey, that's my take on the situation. Let me know what you think in the comment section and everything. I appreciate all comments that come through. Your comments are always more valuable than mine. I always say that because I always mean that, and that's just the honest truth. And Khali out.